don't think I really want those 2 circles in my eyes for this. Let's see. No, no. That's kinda cute, but I'm hopping on live spontaneously because I'm having a breakthrough, and I'm in the middle of the breakthrough, and I decided to pop on in the middle of my breakthrough instead of going through the whole breakthrough and then trying to figure out a way to tell you about it after it's already happened. And that's actually the breakthrough. That's actually the topic of the breakthrough that I'm that I'm having right now. Um, by the way, hello. I am Shaunga Tagore, artistic director of Otherworldly Giants. Welcome back to Magical Reality TV for the Revolution. We are rolling through this 2-week series that I call The Truth About What Art Can Do in Times of Genocide. And we are interacting with storytelling medicine. And this storytelling medicine is what I call storytelling as the ever unfolding breath. So, my storytelling medicine is like that. It's a that's how my ancestors move through my storytelling. And in this series, I'm present every day in terms of what story wants to come out through the breath every day for this series. And the breakthrough that I'm having is that I've really like been I mean, I've had this medicine for my whole life, but it's really, really come online in the last couple years, 2 or 3 years, in terms of this umbrella magical reality TV for the revolution that I'm creating, and it's essentially just like a live multiverse memoir, right? And so part of what I am just joyfully called to do, right, is share my travels through the multiverse, share my memoir with you as it's happening. And it's different than like sitting at home and working on a memoir for 10 years and then really, getting it perfect and then putting it out into the world and then going on your press tour. It's like it's it's being shared as it's happening. And this is what has been difficult for me about my creative process is because like I have so much coming through my energy field all the live long fucking day. So many memories from my future, so many conversations with, beloveds across time, space, dimension. Just this morning I was like laughing with my ancestors because it's like, oh yeah, one moment I'm having a conversation with, the Earth goddess of Turtle Island, and then I'm having a conversation with Pluto about what the next 150 years are going to look like on this planet, and what humanity is going to go through up until uh Pluto took me through all the eras. We're in Pluto and Aquarius right now, but then it was like, what's going to happen during Pluto and Pisces, and then Pluto in Aries, and we went all the way to Pluto and Cancer, and I was like, this is enough for now. That was like one evening, right? And then it's, oh, the dinosaurs are showing up, and then, oh, it's my future partner is showing up. So I just like have so much of this storytelling medicine coming through. And part of the challenge that I know a lot of us are facing right now is overwhelm, right? It's like the overwhelm of like this great, incredible like medicine that shouldn't have survived, but it did, coming through our energy fields. And it's like how to wield this, how to harness it, how to like bring it into something that can be shared meaningfully with a community. And it does have to be shared, otherwise it'll overpower us. It'll just take us into a hole in the ground. And that's also a manifestation of debt. It's a manifestation of isolation and like social poverty, because like if you can't share, if you can't be yourself, um if it just overpowers you, like the enormity of it, and you never find a way to like share it consistently and ongoing with a community who wants to hear the medicine and build and grow that garden with you, you'll be left alone, right? And so we do have to figure out a way to share regularly. I mean, I do. And that's been the difficulty. It's a challenge when there's such a enormity of it coming through your field on any given moment, right? And so I've been like having it's not really my creative writing teacher, who was amazing, one of the first creative writing teachers that really helped me believe that I could be a writer in my life. She's an ancestor now. She's coming through. I remember there was a time when I was just working with her and showing her like a draft of, my book that I was working on at the time. And I was just like, yeah, I write too much, like I end up, writing poems that are like over, bloated, and they're saying too much, and that's my problem. And she's like, it's not a problem. It's part of your process. Um, Right? And so it's not actually a problem that this enormity is happening, but it is like a challenge to figure out like what is my process? you know, um how does this medicine, like what's the technology? What's the architecture of like this what's the architecture of this creative process? And so part of what I've been doing is, I receive a download, right? And then I'm like, wow, this is amazing. But the first thing that happens is that it comes through me and I'm just present with it. It's almost like I get on stage and I do a monologue, right? Or I do a performance. And the stage, of course, for me is an altar, right? And so I just like, for example, earlier today, a friend from my future came through my field and was basically like, Shaunga, like, you're doing so much work and you're doing it alone. I don't like this. I don't like seeing a fellow practitioner as a fellow giant. Like, you are doing too much without adequate support. Like, how can we help? Like, please. And so that is the conversation that I had with someone from my future, or just like a friend who's across the veil, right? And that, it is just being present with it, what is the most powerful medicine, like these are moments where like I wish that more people could see, magical reality TV for the revolution. Like at some point, maybe I want cameras around, right? And so I could be like, "Oh my gosh, like something amazing is happening right now. Let me flip on the camera." And so that people could actually see what's going on, just the way that they do in reality TV shows, right? Which is like really scary for a lot of people, right? It's like, no. And hence, right? Because I'm like, okay, let me just let this through and see what it is, and then I'll decide whether or not I wanna share it with someone, or I'll just decide, like, how the best way to work with this. So, usually what I do in my process is something comes through, I get on stage, and then go through what, like, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, maybe sometimes longer than that, like, this epic journey, and it's so good, and just as it comes out is the best expression of it. But then I'm like, "Oh my god, I have to write this down." And but at that point, I'm tired, right? And so then I just, like, I vomit draft it, right? Vomit draft is like you just, like, point form, point form, point form, and you and then what I have to do after that is come back to my point form draft and then write, um like an actual episode out of that, right? With, like, sentences that make sense and stuff and take people through the story, and then I have to record it. So either I have to, like, come on, like, YouTube Live and read the script, or I read it into my phone and then have to go through the whole editing process and then put it on a voice note and then share it. Um, and sometimes that's good, right? Like sometimes that is a part of the process because I have a podcast, right? And I love my podcast episodes that I've gotten to like really curate a beautiful draft out of out of a story that I channeled, and then I get to edit it beautifully, and then I get to choose like the best performance, right? Like I get to no, I'm gonna cut out, the way I said this and then splice in this. And so then when people listen, it's a much more enjoyable like listening experience, right? Because like you get the best quality of performance, and then I put like the sound effects in there. I'm like, oh, I need like a collaboration of water coming in through here. I'm like, oh, there's a song that needs to drop here. Like, ooh, let me get in this background music here. And I love my podcast episodes. Like, I love the collaboration with sound that I've been able to play with. They're so fun. So I really like the curated episodes. And yet, there's something like really difficult that's happening to me in this process where I like have I have hundreds, thousands wouldn't be a stretch of episode drafts in here that I haven't been able to like harness and share with folks because it just it gets too backed up, right? Like I have this point form draft written down of like the conversation I just had with my with this friend. And there's so much good medicine. Like what we talked about in this conversation was like the trauma of spiritually coming out. Like that's a topic we need to talk about, how traumatizing it has been for us to come out spiritually. Especially those who are queer or trans or genderqueer. Because when we come out spiritually, we're coming out as our queer and trans ancestors and their medicine and their memories and the way they speak, the way they do things, the way they do ceremony. And they are also like carrying huge legacies, right? Of conversion therapy and all the violent things that happen when people come out. And that's what I was talking to my friend about here, like this friend across the veil, was this topic about how I realized, like, I'm still carrying so much trauma from, like, what happened to me when I spiritually came out, not when I came out as queer. That was weird and easy for me. Like, it was weird. It was just, like, I didn't actually come out as queer to anyone. I just, like, started being really out as queer, I started, like, you know announcing that I'm queer on face like, just, like, as a queer woman of color, or, like, I'd be like, "I'm performing on Pride," and I have this cape that says "Super Queero" on it, and, like, I just started being like, "Oh, yeah, so when I was dating this, like, woman," like, I didn't come out in that way. I just began I just, like, pretended that I've always been out or something, like, not pretending, I just, like, started talking as if, like, "Oh, did you miss that?" Like I don't know, it just, like, kinda happened, and it was fine, like, nobody really reacted, and I understand that, like, that's so a lot of people have, like, really traumatic experiences of, like, just coming out as queer, as, like, "Oh, you know, this is my gender, this is my sexuality," or whatever, but that didn't happen to me, but the violence that I did experience was when I came out spiritually. Um, when I started, when I had my ancestral awakening and when I started talking in my ancestral tongue. And I don't mean like language is the way we understand it. I mean the language of ceremony. We speak differently in ceremony than we do in regular life, right? Like at least unless you speak in ceremony all the time, then it's not any different. But like for me there was a definite shift, right? Like the way that we speak in ceremony, it just as soon as I landed in that place, like, I felt so at home because it's just, the ancestors in me, need that kinda language, need that kind of voice, need that kind of expression, and it's an energetic expression, right? It is literally how your ancestors are dancing and moving through you. Um And a lot of people have that experience, right? That like once you go through your ancestral awakening, you will start speaking differently because there's an energy coming out of you that you're allowing to express, right? And that's what people had a problem with. That's what people reacted to. And that's why like it was so like people had violent reactions to me just speaking. And that is part of this ever unfolding mystery that we are unfolding here in this series, the truth about what art can do during times of genocide. The very first episode was, am I gonna screw up this launch? Like, this series is about me relaunching my work into the world, but on a deeper level, it's allowing myself to, like, be human again and be with other humans again and invite people into my world and be open to, like, sharing myself again in a way that I haven't in the last 7 years. I've been really recluse, and protective the way I am right now. I'm protecting my heart and have good reason to do that, but not good enough reason to continue falling into a hole and never ever sharing what needs to be shared, right? And part of this ever unfolding mystery is Shaunga gonna screw up this launch is like, well, why would I intentionally screw it up? Why would I intentionally say, okay, here, this is about relaunching myself into the world, but then, oh no, I'm not going to. I'm not there's a part in my subtle body that's not actually letting me do that. And today I had to, that's the conversation I had with this friend who is like, you know, w- we went on this journey of unfolding more of why I would stop myself from sharing, and that's it. That's what came out today is that, oh, I'm still holding a lot of trauma from when I came out spiritually. Um and it's that this medicine is so so precious and important to me that I don't want it to be insulted. This is my grief. This is my lungs. The breath that's coming out through these stories, they're my lungs, and my lungs are full of grief. And that means they're full of love, and that means they're full of joy, and that means they're full of life. Life. when you offer your story and put it into someone's hands, people who really love you must understand that all the ways that story almost died before it was here to be shared, right? And that's the level of, you know, protection that I have around what I have to share. And I'm still holding this trauma of being horrified, insulted, degraded when I spiritually came out and started sharing like this, when I started sharing my stories to begin with in this way, in collaboration with my ancestors, in conscious collaboration with my ancestors, you know. And then we went on this, you know, uh journey and talking about numbers because it's like, yeah, we get it. And also, where are you in your process? You're in the borderlands between 1 and 2. And it's basically the opposite of Spice Girls, right? Instead of, 2 becoming 1, it's like 1 becoming 2. And what I mean by that is like after you go through a period of trauma, social trauma, it is worthy to take time for yourself and go inward and heal the things that you need to heal within yourself. Um, and do that for as long as you need. And at some point, your medicine will show you when you're done with number 1 and that you have to cross that threshold into number 2. Meaning, if you're trying to heal a particular ley line, and by ley line, I mean, say, social trauma, you can heal that up to a point, and then there's a limit because there's always a limit, between all the numbers that every number can do what they can do, but they can't do more than what they can do. They can't step into another number's bounds and do what that number is supposed to do. So when you need to heal your relationship body, you can spend as much time as you want in that solo time in number 1, but at some point, if you want to continue healing that ley line, you have to allow yourself to have good experiences in your relationships. You have to allow yourself to have a different kind of experience in your relationship. And that is the only thing that can help you heal past that point, and not just one good experience, but you have to allow the repetition. You have to allow the repetition of good experiences again and again and again in your healed and healing intimacies, right? You have to allow that repetition, and because of that, you also have to allow the repetition of some bullshit too. If you're opening yourself up to the world again, to relationships again, you have to allow not just one time, but the repetition of shitty things happening again. And it doesn't have to be your baseline, but in your paradigm of healed and healing intimacy, people will still hurt you. People will still insult you every once in a while, even your closest relationships, and you have to allow the repetition of that so that you can allow the repetition of healing and repair to happen in this paradigm as well. Um, and so that's what we were talking about, is about knowing where you are in your process. And actually, the game changer here is that I know that I am in my paradigm of healed and healing relationships. I know that. And that shift, I think, happened for me right at the end of 2024. You could say it happened before that too, but there's a real push forward. There's something that ended, you know, on New Year's Eve on 2024. I was sitting at my altar and I was just like a cascade of grief came through and I was just crying. That's how I spent New Year's. And I wouldn't have done it any other way. Like I really needed to release something. But as I was crying, like right at midnight, this rainbow came through. Just this rainbow frequency came through and it felt like it was just saying like, done. Thank you. I love you. It was just such a closure and an ushering, like an opening of the window and the doors to a new year. And I know very well that I am in my paradigm of healed and healing relationships now. And the thing is that, like I said, sometimes things are going to hurt. And there's a willingness to allow yourself to have good things even when they hurt. And trust that those are the people you are going to find who you can do that with in this era. So anyway, that's what we were talking about. We were talking about, yeah, this the trauma of spiritually coming out. As something that still really impacts me, and I'm not over it. I'm not going to be over it. Like there's no getting over it on my own, right? Because if you're at this juncture and you keep trying to like heal, I need to, we talked about this in the first episode, right? Like with the vampires, like there's always another vampire that you can kill. There's always, another one will rise. There's always more healing that you can do on yourself before you feel like you're ready to have another experience. But when you're at this juncture, your medicine will show you that you have to move on to that next number, because if you don't, you'll heal yourself more, heal yourself more, heal yourself more. Then you find yourself stuck in time loops. You find yourself stuck in patterns that that lessons that you've already learned. You find yourself like fighting vampires that you have no business fighting anymore. And you find yourself going deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole in the ground, which can manifest as debt. And for someone whose spiritual debt is clear, there's no fucking reason. There's no good reason why I should have debt on my bank account. That's ridiculous. Are you someone who knows that your spiritual debt is clear? A lot of people don't have that yet, but like I've earned that. I've earned it. My spiritual debt is clear. There's no fucking good reason why anyone with clear spiritual debt should be in debt. Yet a lot of people are. What's that about? There's something here about that, like, we could do more, we could do more, we could do more, we could do more because we've been trained to do that for the collective. We've been trained to do that for the collective, like, continually healing more of ourselves in order to keep the planet alive. I've said this before, underneath every single revolutionary movement are underground, unnamed, powerful witches who kept the movement alive, never mind the planet alive, never mind humanity alive. And we just, we keep doing it and doing it and doing it. But we're being asked to shift, right? Not to become one. When one become two. That's where we at. At some point, you just have to leave it and just let yourself be imperfect and have good things and allow yourself to have the repetition of good experiences in relationships again, even if that repetition comes along with the same old thing hurting you again sometimes. Like some person will do some shitty thing, something over there will do some shitty thing. Um, and the right relationships will be able to repair that with you. And the wrong relationships still will not be able to repair that with you. But there's a level of like, huh, that's okay. I'm just going to move on from that because it's not my baseline reality anymore. Just a ghost. So here's the breakthrough that I had, right? So after I did my first episode and I was kind of sitting with, in that episode, we left on a little bit of a cliffhanger, right? Of like the wisdom keeper. Okay, so recap if you didn't watch that episode yet, but the wisdom keeper is like stuck in this hole, right? And is trying to get out of this hole in the ground and realizes that and we had this conversation between like Shaunga the fraidy cat, Shaunga the angry one, Shaunga the wisdom keeper, and Shaunga the human. And we realized that and this whole time, that whole episode, Shaunga the human was trying to convince the wisdom keeper to come out of the hole and live. Come on, I need you to live. I need you to be the leader in me. You are the leader in me. But then we got to the cliffhanger at the end where it's like, but you're the one, human Shaunga. You're the one who's going to let me die. You're the one who's not helping me out of that hole. It's you that I need, the human, and you're not. So why? And we don't know, right? Like we left that, I don't know. So this is the mystery that we're unfolding. And so after we did that episode, I kind of sat with like human Shaunga and wisdom keeper Shaunga, and I was like, wisdom keeper, like, what do you need from Shaunga the human, in this launch to make it successful? And the wisdom keeper was like, are you willing to be spontaneous? And I was like, what does that entail? And I didn't really understand it fully, but I got it right now. Um, I got it because after I sat down and I was like, okay, I wrote down this incredible episode and I still have the notes for it, but I'm like, now what? Like, I'm tired. Like, I don't want to spend the rest of the night trying to like pump this out, right? And it's just too much work to do like for one evening, but I tomorrow is a very important day for me and I don't want to be working on this tomorrow. Um I want to be present with the anniversary of tomorrow. Um, and I also know that if I leave this one, by the time we get to Saturday, I will have like 20 other things coming through my field, right? And then this one will fall away again in the hole in the ground that is like these drafts that never that aren't seeing the light of day. And I'm just going to have five other things that are coming through my channel, and just like, what do I do, right? And then I was like, hold on. Was I supposed to write this down? And I have a pendulum, right? So sometimes I use my pendulum. I'm like, am I supposed to write this down? Up, back and forth. That means no. Yes is this way. It's like, am I supposed to write this? I was not supposed to write this down. I was supposed to, what would have been better for my process is to hop on live. Is it's like, oh, a story's coming through. Why don't I just, instead of, letting it come through and then understanding what it is and then writing it down and then creating an episode, why don't I just hop on live and show you the conversation as it's happening? And then it's something that I've shared. That's vulnerable, right? It hits up against this like control perfectionism thing. It's like, but how do I know what I'm going to say? How do I know that I want to share this with folks? What if it's something that I want to keep to myself? Well, I do know that I have had experience again and again and again of like channeling something and being like, this is so good, I have to share it now. So I know that repetition of experience is far more common than anything else. I know that when I channel, it's gold. It's like beautiful. Um, and also, I fucking don't have to. I don't. There isn't anything saying that I have to share it with anyone, right? Like some things deserve to be private. Some things need to be shared. And then I was like, oh, fuck, I get it. I get what the wisdom keeper meant now. Like, are you willing to be spontaneous? And I get, I've been getting the message for a while that like I there's so many missed opportunities. Like my ancestors, like, you're missing so many good opportunities. And part of it is, yeah, there's so many good opportunities of just opening a little bit of my process to share spontaneously as it's happening. Not everything, but every once in a while, just get on live and show people your process of how you channel something through. And I'm not even really doing it right now. Kind of am, but like there's even a different level of like when I'm channeling like a conversation, say with my future partner, right? Or like with my thriving village or with a dinosaur, whatever, right? It's like let me show you those conversations when they happen. And then I'm like, so what's my protocol though? What's my protocol? That's what I need to figure out, is like, what's the protocol? Like, how do I discern when I want to do that as part of my process and when I want to keep something to myself? And here's a breakthrough, right? Because like here's like a little kind of, I don't know if it's a false belief, but like sort of an assumption that I had like in my subtle body, like way deep in my subconscious, that was like, you know, a lot. Okay. I've come on YouTube spontaneously many, 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 many times. Those of you who followed my old YouTube channel, which is still this channel, but like what I used to do, you understand, right? Like I just come on here and I channel horoscope readings, right? So I get doing spontaneous readings, but this is different, right? This is not like, oh, let me do a reading for you. This is let me in, let me I will let you into my process. That's different. Um, and so I had this thing where I was like, how do you know when you want to share a part of your process with the collective? A lot of people, and I have this thing too where I'm like, oh, well, it's about the content. It's about like, oh, the collective needs to hear this content. The collective needs to hear this message. No, that's not the protocol. It's not about the content, because if it's about the content, then I have to actually understand what it is before I share it. And then by the time I do that, we're in this problem, right? No, I have to follow something else. I have to follow how my body feels. That's what my Thriving Village told me today. They're like, it's not about the content. Who the fuck cares about the content? The content is whatever it's going to be at any point. Your protocol, your discernment is around, are you in a space right now, Shaunga, where you feel like you want to share? And it's tricky because I'm a hooded wisdom keeper and I'm like, no, I don't want to share ever in life. Like this is my secret underground stuff, I so there's a level of like knowing that that's the growth edge. Mhm. Knowing that that's the part of my life that I'm needing through, it's I'm working the dough on that one. I need to understand what my body feels like. Shout out to one of my teachers, Keone. The difference between enrichment and comfort. This is, we talked about, I just went through a ceremony um, series with my teacher Keone, and so we talked about that, the difference between enrichment and comfort, right? There's a kind of comfort that leads you into complacency, that leads you into like, I just want to be in my cave all day, but then you're not actually getting the fulfillment that you need. You're not actually allowing yourself to move through that brave space and move from the borderlands between like one number and another number. And so what does my body feel like when I'm ready? Like when I'm wanting that enrichment, when I'm wanting to share, when I'm wanting to share part of my process with you, that's what I have to pay attention to, not the content, not like, oh, this is a message that the collective needs to hear. It's like, I feel 638. That's my number. I feel right now something in me, the wind in me, the rainbow in me, the dinosaurs in me. Keep talking about the dinosaurs, right? We got to talk to them one day. The dinosaurs in me want to share. Who cares what the content is? Just like when you feel that, set yourself up in a container, right? Don't just hop on. Do your protocol, like do breathe, ground, call it in. Call in the messages that are best to share with the collective. Call in who you need to be in order to share the way that you want to share. Um, that's the discernment and that's the protocol. And there's a level of willingness that you have to put into the intention of your entire process to say, I am willing to open up some parts of my process to this. I'm willing to be spontaneous and share in this way. And by the way, this is just me, right? Like, not everybody is creating magical reality TV for the revolution, right? So not everyone is like, I'm not saying this is right for everyone, that everyone has to come in and share parts of your creative process with the community, but this is my gold, right? This is my wealth. This is like, it's one really important part of my overall process. Yes, I'm still going to be creating the memoir that gets turned and that is perfectly, curated and very well crafted and gets to be turned into a book and published, right? I'm still making those podcast episodes that get to be beautifully curated into these, sound healing baths, right? But a part of the process is this, so that I can let people in, and that creates a level of consistency, right? Whereas if you're an ancestral artist and you're not letting people in as part of your process, um and you're trying to figure out, like, how to pay your bills through your work, right? Like, there's a level of consistency that we need to wield through, yeah, just through the way that we share our process with one another, and I'll maybe talk about that a little bit later because this is getting longer, but, I feel like this is a very important thing in terms of if you're a spirit-led artist and you want to, generate more of a reciprocity for your work, for your life in general, I think this is a really big thing that the world needs right now is they wanna be let in to the process of creating and the process of traveling the multiverse in order to create, like, um, our concoctions, right? So so this is it, right? So there's that level of, like, just being willing to, like, open yourself up to that part of to that being a part of the overall process. Um, and that was a breakthrough for me, right? Is just understanding that difference between, like, how do I know when it's time to be spontaneous like this? Is it because I have a message to share with my collective? No. It's because something in me wants and needs to share at this particular moment of my process and trusts that whatever comes out is going to be exactly what the collective needs to hear and exactly how they need to hear it because it's the part of me that it's coming out of at that particular moment. I'm going to leave it there for now because I don't want this video to go on and on forever. But that was my yeah, so this is me putting into practice what I'm learning while I'm learning it. And that was this today's village voice note was about this. And so instead of wondering, now, oh, I gotta write all this out and I gotta make it, good enough to share. Now I have something like weird and impromptu and imperfect to share with y'all tonight. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you next time as we keep unfolding this series, The Truth About What Art Can Do During Times of Genocide. Check out all the links in the show notes. I will get around to posting those links as soon as I can. Until next time.